Hello guys, I am back with another episode. There is a message that I want to share with you guys, and this message reads like this. Hello my brother, can you please post my story? I am also a content creator, but I recently came across your channel. I have decided to tell my own story that I have been keeping in my heart. When I started this whole thing that I did, it was because I wanted to provide a better life for my family. I wanted to provide a better life for my brother because he was the brightest amongst all of my siblings. He tried to be a DJ, but I could see that his career was not going anywhere. And since he was very bright when it came to school, I encouraged him to rewrite his matric, and I told him that if he was going to pass his matric, I was going to try by all means so that he can go to varsity. He said that he wanted to study media when he was in varsity. I said as long as he was going to pass his matric, I will try to do whatever I can so that he can get through varsity. He rewrote his matric, and I was just working at this other salon, and I tried by all means. But on many days, life was so tough for me, and the owner of that salon where I was working at that time, he didn't want to hear any excuses at the end of the day. All that he wanted was his rent money. But I tried by all means so that my brother can get through varsity. But I reached a point in my life when I could not go any further. That is when I started to date a lot of guys. Then I started to go to a lot of taverns, thinking that at the end of the night, maybe I was going to have a little bit of money in my pockets. But I saw that most of the guys that I would go with to the taverns, all that they wanted to do with me was just to sleep with me, simply because they would have bought for you a six-pack, and this was not good enough for me. I then started to go to some clubs that were in town. That is when I started to meet a lot of guys, and some of the guys that I was meeting, yes, indeed, they were giving me a lot of money, but most of these guys, they were foreign nationals. Then I met another guy, and when I met this guy, he didn't tell me exactly what kind of a business that he was doing. He only told me that he had fallen deeply in love with me, but he was a married guy, and he said that he didn't want to get divorced from his wife. He told me that the only way that me and him can be in a relationship if I was going to work for his wife. This was really painful and scary at the same time, knowing that you are working for the woman whom you are cheating on with her husband. But I had to be strong. I submitted my CV to his company, but already I knew that I was going to get the job. After I had gotten the job, he told me that my job was to travel to different countries and sleep in very nice hotels and come back. This is what he told me. He was going to pay me about 15,000 rands for the first trip, and if I did very well, then the money would go up. But what shocked me was that at the end of the month, I saw that my salary was almost double than the amount that he had told me he was going to give me. He just smiled the day that I asked him why I had seen such huge amount in my bank account. He said some of the money that he had given me, it was part of my girlfriend's allowance. I was really happy. For the first time in my life, I was able to drive a car. Me and him, we just went to buy cars. Then we purchased my first car. I was really excited. Things were really changing in my life. The first assignment that I had to do was to go through the Beitbridge border post. I was given a bag. Then he told me that I had to be careful and not to give the bag to anyone till I had reached my destination. I was really scared. As a South African, this was going to be the first time ever visiting Zimbabwe, and I was traveling alone. But the way that he used to set me up, I was actually thinking that I was a travel agent. And whenever I would go into that destination where he would have sent me, I was supposed to go there and scout out the place, if it was a hotel, if it was a guest house. And he used to tell me that the reason why I was supposed to go and scout out the place, it was because he wanted to recommend all of these places that I would have gone first to, so that his rich friends can later go to those places. Then he will get a commission. He would give me the directions and told me that by the border, all that I needed was to take my passport and get it stamped. I had never traveled out of South Africa, and this was my very first time. We drove till the border gate and I stamped my passport. My bag was never detached, and we passed through the border gate, arrived in the capital city, and then there came a guy who picked me up and he wanted the bag. As simply as that, whilst I was in Zim, a guy just came up to me and he said that he wanted the bag. I gave him the bag, and this time I didn't know what was happening. I came back to Johannesburg and I received my money in my account. The year was somewhere around 2005. Now this guy then told me that he wanted me to do an international flight. For the first time, I asked him, why do you want to send me? And he told me that I had to meet with someone, so I had to pick some clothes and I had to dress and to be presentable, because international airports are serious with their searches. I didn't even know what exactly I was doing. All that I knew was that I was trying to keep up with my job, because this kind of a job, according to him, was going to turn me into a millionaire. He kept on telling me to relax and never to allow any police officer to intimidate me. I kept on wondering, why would the police officers be after me? My flight was the following morning and I was on the way to Mauritius. That is when the disaster started. He told me not to eat anything as I'll be traveling. I followed his instructions, and then he told me to come into his living room, and it is when I saw those small balls wrapped in foil paper. He told me that I was supposed to swallow these little balls till I was full. Life, let me laugh, life is not easy. The moment that you think that God has blessed you, then boom, Satan will just reveal his face to you. How was I supposed to swallow all of these balls without chewing them? He then told me to be careful, because if I was going to chew any of these balls that were on the table, then I was going to be at a high risk to die. And these balls were supposed to be in my stomach for only 24 hours. After that, they would have overstayed. He said that there is a risk that they will burst in my tummy and I was going to die. I then began to swallow those tiny balls, very small. It was me and these other girls. It was not an easy task, but after I did that, I swallowed to the end. Then this moment, that is then I realized that I was never going to be able to sleep. It was really painful. Check-in was the following morning at 4 a.m. and we went to the airport. I had to walk like a lady and I had my hand luggage only. I was beginning to feel very uncomfortable, but I had to make myself very strong. We checked in as if I was just walking through my house. There was no stress or anything. We boarded the flight to Mauritius and we landed 4 hours later, but I was not okay. I felt very dizzy and I wanted to vomit, and I had not eaten anything since the previous day after I had been made to swallow all of those balls that we had found out in his office. By the airport, that is when we were met by this other very beautiful young lady. There were two of them. The other one, she was waiting in the car, but the other one, she was a white woman. Then the one who was waiting for us in the car, I saw that she seemed as if she was from Brazil or so, because her hair was really dark and her accent when she spoke English, it was quite strong than the other one. Once they had taken us to this other hotel, they made us to vomit all of the substance that we had eaten. They made us to vomit. First, they gave us some substance Yes, that substance, it was quite sweet when we were drinking it, but after finishing the glass, that is when we started to vomit. We vomited a lot. After vomiting, I felt a very terrible stomach ache and I went to the toilet. When I went to the toilet, that other white lady who looked like she was a Mexican, she followed me. Then she gave me the instructions. I did all that I did and she just stood there. And I pooped on the floor, not straight into the toilet. After that, she told me to go and relax. I don't know what she did with my poo, but I pooped for the next 6 hours until everything had left my body and they took all of the contents that were in my poo. Then they started to clean everything. This had been my life till I made a mistake to go to Australia. Australia is one hell of a country that has a very tight security. Now, because I had been doing this for a very long time and the thrill and the rush, it was just too exciting for me, and the money, I had become so much relaxed. This time around, I was given a traveling bag that had washing powder and other clothing items. That guy, he just told me that I was supposed to go to this other expo that was there in Australia where I was supposed to market some South African products, but I didn't know that this was just a cover up. There was no South African products, and on the visa it was as if I was going to that expo that was in Australia where I'll be marketing some South African products. We left South Africa as usual, and when we got to Perth and as we were by the customs, there were some dogs that were roaming around, and it is when bad luck happened to me. There was this other dog that came straight right to me. I pretended to be good and I tried to smile as hard as I could, but that dog started to bark whilst it was looking at me. I knew that indeed I was now in deep trouble. These were some white guys and there was no way for me to bribe them like I had done when I would go to some African countries. I was taken aside for some questioning alongside my luggage. They took my bag for scan. That is when they saw everything. The linings of the bag were filled with some powder which they said it was cocaine. The bar soaps and everything were nicely opened and filled with foil. And those bar of soaps, they had cocaine inside. The washing powder containers had cocaine which was wrapped in some foil paper. It was cocaine all over. They took a test and it proved that indeed this was cocaine. I knew that my life was over, and it is in such moments that you wish the earth will just open up and it would swallow you. I knew everything that I was doing, and the officers kept on questioning me, especially on the fact that my passport had stamps from all over the world, from different countries. And this was another red flag. I just said someone had packed the bag for me. This was the instruction that was given to me whilst I was in South Africa, but I knew very well what was inside. Outside the airport, the guys were waiting for me, but they knew that something was wrong. Meanwhile, my other friend who had swallowed the drugs had collapsed because the drugs had spent more than 24 hours in her body. She was taken by the ambulance whilst I watched, and within a few hours, I was taken into custody. Yo, dear listeners, right there was a message that was forwarded to me by one of our admins. Strange things do happen in this world. If you have any story that you want to share with us, please do not hesitate to contact us via our email address.